Let me tell you about a friend of mine. He's spoken here before. His name's Rexa Him. And Rexa was just a boy when when the Khmer Rouge murdered 13 members of his family in Cambodia. Maybe you're familiar with the civil war in Cambodia known as the Killing Fields. And many were rounded up in these big pits, and they were killed and dropped their bodies in these pits. And his family was rounded up one day. They were with pickaxes. They were killed, and they were thrown into this pit. And he was hit hard, but he didn't die. And he fell into the pit. His parents and his family, they all fell on top of him dead. And he waited for hours until he heard no one. He pushed the dead bodies of his family off of him. He climbed out of that pit. He ran into the jungle, and he escaped. And for years, he was consumed by rage, as you probably would be too, dreaming of revenge. But through his journey, he met Jesus. He came to know the Lord, and something began to shift as he began to submit himself to the lordship of Jesus. And years later, Rexa returned to the very village where his family was killed. But he didn't come to demand repayment. He came to offer reconciliation, because he understood that now I'm a minister of reconciliation. And so carrying a Bible and what he called a scarf of forgiveness, he looked his family's killers in the eyes, and he talked to them and he said, listen, I came to forgive you because Christ has forgiven me. He found the soldiers that were responsible for the death of his family, and one of the men fell to his knees weeping, and he says, I am sorry, please forgive me. And Rexa later said, when I forgave them, I became free. Now, that's the difference between guilt and grace. In Leviticus, the guilt offering required the offender to make restitution, to pay back what was lost and even give more. But in Jesus, the guilt who is the guilt offering himself, comes to the guilty. He pays the debt we could never repay, and then he adds on top of that grace upon grace upon grace. Because we can't pay more anymore. We can't settle the score ourselves. But Jesus ultimately does this. He's the fulfillment of the guilt offering.